What's up, college football fans? Sonoy Valente here once again with the Mean Green Show. And tonight I'm joined by Matthew Bartlett, the person who runs the Roost podcast. And guys, before we get into all things Matthew and the Roost and Rice versus UNT related, you already know the drill. If you're a fan of college football recruiting, G5 football, the transfer portal, conference realignment, consider hitting that like and subscribe button because that is truly all that we talk about. Matthew, really quick, where can everybody find you at?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. You can find us at The Roost on every social media platform. You can find the Roost podcast at The Roost Pod. We talk all things Rice, and we were talking pre-show Conference USA, but I guess we have to talk all things Conference USA / AAC / a little bit of everything these days, right?
Absolutely. And thank you for coming on, to your note. But yeah, so before we even jump into the Rice and UNT matchup this week, the college game day will be there, I'm sure. What how did you guys feel whenever we all got the news about going into the AAC? From a UNT perspective, we were hearing more whispers of the Mountain West. So if we were to leave Conference USA to go up to a better conference, we were all thinking that it would be Mountain West. And we're not going to argue with the AAC. We'll take take what we can get, and we're very happy that we got selected, if you will, to join the AAC, the P6. But what was the feeling amongst yourself and as well as the Rice fans?
I guess it kind of goes. There's a couple different pieces in there, right? Because from the moment that I got plugged in with the Roost several years back and started talking with people, the idea of getting Rice into a better conference was at the forefront. This wasn't something that in the last couple weeks, the Rice administration was like, what we should do? We should get into a better conference. They've been working this for since Joe Carlgard was hired as the athletic director at Rice, which is we're getting close to a decade now. So it was always they were going to be ready when the time came a coming. And as soon as that first domino fell with Texas and OU saying they were head to the SEC, at that point, that's when I kind of first started getting the rumblings that, Rice was going to, no promises, right? But Rice was going to make their pitch to anyone who would listen. I believe they gave a pitch to the Big 12 when they did the Dog and Pony show a couple years back and then took nobody. So Rice was always going to try. Yeah, I'd heard Mountain West. I'd heard AAC. Lots of smoke going back and forth in both directions. But at the end of the day, I think everybody's just over the moon not to be left. I mean, how many teams are left in Conference USA at this point? I guess 5.
Yeah, La Tech, UTEP, FIU. Is ODU? Are they
Middle and Western?
Middle and Western. Okay, is ODU coming to the AAC with us?
ODU is Sunbelt officially today.
Okay. So yeah,
Marshall is on the way. Allegedly.
To the Sun Belt as well. Okay, yeah. So like you were saying, Western Kentucky, Middle Tennessee, La Tech, FIU, and UTEP. Yeah. God bless them.
And can we, like a complete aside, not to derail everything here, but this is what sucks about conference realignment. Because, I know North Texas fans are super happy they got picked for the AAC. Rice fans are too. But, let's not pretend that, there's anything all that superior. If Rice was in Ruston and Louisiana Tech was in Houston, Louisiana Tech would be going to the AAC.
For sure.
And likewise, it doesn't work that way. But
yeah, likewise with North Texas and UTEP. Yeah, it's geographics and markets and all that. And I had Matt from the Go Tech Please Don't Die podcast just talking about just this honestly, and my heart really goes out to those teams. I mean, sincerely, that sucks, but at the same time, thank God our schools are where they are.
Both hands. Yeah. Because every conversation we had with anybody in Conference USA over the past 3 or 4 years is like, hey, we like y'all, but as soon as we can leave y'all, we're going to.
Yeah.
And that finally happened, and it's either good or bad depending on your perspective.
Yep. I'd rather be the ones leaving than the ones left behind, though. No shock there, though, I'm sure. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, obviously we're going to a better conference, but I mean, we'll see how our schools compete in those conferences. I mean, UNT is not really competing that well in Conference USA, so I mean,
Hey,
we can't
Rice is
really go.
undefeated since announcing their membership in the AAC.
I heard you guys after the recap of the UAB game make that statement, and that's right. And when we played Liberty, it seemed like we were playing with a little AAC magic dust too, but we didn't close the deal. But yeah, so anyway, but kind of moving things over to Rice, UNT for a bit. You guys, okay, so Wiley Green, what's the story with him? He's starting now. He was, running the scout team. I mean, he's like back and forth, back and forth. Is he like what's the story with Wiley Green?
He's becoming a folk legend at this point around Rice. So he was recruited as a part of Coach Bloomgren's original recruiting class and ran the scout team his freshman year going back to 2018. Midway through the 2018 season, had a couple of injuries, a couple guys not perform up to expectations, and Wiley Green got the call up from scout team after, I guess it was probably middle of the season, to start. He got in his first game against FIU, and then his first career start was actually in 2018 at Denton at North Texas. So that was his first game. So he was
Didn't
kind of the heir apparent
that year. Do you remember?
It was close through like the third quarter.
Okay.
And then I think everything fell apart. I think North Texas won that game by like 17 or something like that.
I feel like
the final
Rice
score
always
not
plays
close.
North Texas close, though. Anyway.
Yeah, so that happens, and he's the guy, and going into 2019, sort of, and then they bring in a grad transfer, and the grad transfer beats him out. Then he has a really good spring, and he's the guy going into and he gets hurt, and then the grad transfer comes back because they kind of go back and forth a couple times. Then going into the UTSA game, middle of 2019, when Rice has now lost. They were 0-6 at the time and had lost 10 of their 12 or 11 of their 13 games they played in 2018. And the UTSA was terrible. Frank Wilson was about to get fired. And Wiley throws a pick six to start the second half, and a lead evaporates, and he gets benched and thrown into the wasteland of, man, we can't believe we played this guy. Then lo and behold, we do the grad transfer dance again in 2020. He's third string. 2021, we do the grad transfer dance again, and they bring in a blue chip quarterback via the transfer portal from Nebraska and Luke McCaffrey. So Green is third string at best again, and then lo and behold, we have a couple guys get hurt. McCaffrey's not ready, and he emerges after being hurt and knocked out of the game and unavailable for a couple games earlier this season to start out of nowhere against UAB. So he has now gone from scout team to starter to scout team to starter to scout team to starter in 4 years, and he's going to be starting again against North Texas.
And with the COVID year and everything going on, what year is he now? Is he like a junior?
He was a freshman in 2018.
He never redshirted?
I think he did redshirt in 2018.
Okay.
So redshirt in 2018, 2019, 20 redshirt junior?
So
maybe?
Okay, so 2018 first year redshirted, even though he got the 4-year rule. So then 2019
Right.
redshirt freshman, 2020 redshirt sophomore, which is a repeat year. So then 2021, he should technically still be a redshirt sophomore on the field, right?
Maybe.
Maybe.
He's one of those guys that I'm going to have to pull it up, has literally been there forever. It feels like at this point, and might just be there forever.
Yeah, he probably has, not out of question to think he has 2 more years to go back to the practice squad and start and be a Heisman candidate all in the same.
Yeah, redshirt sophomore by classification. That is wild.
That is wild. That is super wild.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and you speak on, Luke McCaffrey. I wanted to talk about that too. So prior to this year, I personally, I just feel like every year that UNT plays you guys, and I don't have their history, the last few years games up. Have y'all beaten us once in the last 3 years? I feel like you guys have. If
I think I remember seeing that the series history was it was like out of 11 games. I think North Texas has won 6 out of 11.
Okay. I mean,
Um,
I was talking more like Seth Luttrell era, but anyway, whether you guys have won since we've had Seth Luttrell or not, I feel like the games have always been super close when, from a North Texas perspective, we probably didn't think they should have been that close. Even some of the years we had Mason Fine, I
the
just like, good
notable
God,
win would have been 2019.
that's
That
when you
was
guys beat
the
us?
Yeah, that was the last game of the Mason Fine, or second
Yes,
to
that's,
last. I don't know.
yeah, that
The
was the
end zone,
last.
fourth quarter end zone
Hmm.
breakup. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, whether you guys are pulling off a quote unquote upset from a North Texas fan's perspective or just playing us closer than maybe we thought we should have played you guys. I feel like all of our games have been just super close, and I've from that anyway from collecting that from what I have from our games as opposed to our North Texas Rice games. I feel like you guys have been on the cusp of really being pretty good. And when you guys got Luke McCaffrey, I was like, oh crap, these guys are going to dominate. He wasn't there for spring ball though, right?
He was not. He got here
Yeah.
mid-June.
Right. But I was kind of keeping my ear to the ground with your guys' practice reports, and I was hearing nothing but this guy can really throw the ball and spin it and all that. Not to
Yeah, I
mention the
believe the
athlete.
words that Coach Bloomgren said was a howitzer for an arm.
Yeah. Yeah. And not to mention, we all know the athlete that he is with his legs. So I was thinking, like, okay, this guy's going to come in and great. Rice is going to be, right up there with, the top dogs of the conference. But I mean, you guys are still very much in the mix of things, but not really due to the efforts of Luke McCaffrey. So just kind of wanted to ask, what's the consensus as of now? I mean, are you guys thinking that he's this is Wiley Green's team now, or is it Luke McCaffrey may make his way back into the mix later this year or next year?
Uh, Wiley Green is the third starting quarterback Rice has had this season, and Rice has played 7 games. So the truthful answer is I have no idea. Um, Wiley was healthy and got benched for McCaffrey, and then with everybody healthy once again, now he's the starter again. So I couldn't tell you what's going to happen next week, but I will say this: the expectations surrounding Luke McCaffrey were really high, and for good reason. He has a blue chip pedigree, brother of Christian McCaffrey, his dad. Has a lot of been around football forever. Like, the family is just uber athletic. He came to Rice, and you just watch him on the practice field, and you hear that, and you watch the highlight film, you're like, man, this guy just is a running back. He's a running back that can kind of throw it. And actually, I went and looked that he would have, of all of the quarterbacks returning in Conference USA last season, Luke McCaffrey had a higher career completion percentage than every returning CUSA quarterback. Which is just bonkers. But the thing that's been the issue for him, and you can just look at the game logs, has 3 pick sixes, a couple fumbles, and he really is just not ready, which is really disappointing because you look at him athletically, and you're like, man, this guy could dominate. And they've kind of installed kind of a 2 QB system where he takes some short yardage, some goal line, gets to use his leg on a couple things like that. So we might see him a little bit against North Texas here or there in those situational pieces. And I don't think it's necessarily a detriment to his long-term prospects. I think what makes Wiley so special is not he's not as nearly as athletically talented as McCaffrey is, but Bloomgren, his 4th year here, says he has a PhD in the scheme in the system, and I think that's the difference. And I think once Luke McCaffrey gets his PhD, which at this point I wouldn't count happening this season. In an ideal world, I'm sure they would love to redshirt or not play McCaffrey as much and be able to turn to him for the future, because he has 4 years of eligibility remaining. So
Wow.
he's the kind of guy that they would love to speed and you run the ship going forward, but let's not throw you to the wolves now if we don't have to. So I think that McCaffrey is the quarterback of the future. I don't think he's the quarterback of the present.
Interesting. So kind of touching back on the UAB game, you guys go in there at 2-4. I think everybody, I mean, you guys are 20-point underdogs, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. You guys,
23
go
and a
in
half.
23.5. Okay, there we go. Yeah, even better. So you guys go to Birmingham, and yeah, I mean, you're playing the UAB Blazers. I mean, back-to-back conference champs. I mean, very dominant team in this conference. And going there at 2-4, I think everybody presumed you guys would come out 2-5. I know I did, and was kind of looking forward to playing a winnable game. For the first time since Northwestern, I guess. But you guys pull off the upset, in a large part because of Wiley Green going 17 of 22, 205 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that being said, what are your thoughts on this North Texas game? I mean, are you guys concerned at all now? I mean, because you guys still have a lot to play for. I mean, obviously North Texas does too. I mean, I know it sounds crazy. We could still make a bowl if we won out, but you guys are really in the mix of things and could have a really good season. And I feel like your schedule is set up to where you could win a lot more football game and, have a really, really good season. It's far from over for you guys, like realistically speaking. But what is your thoughts on this North Texas game? Are you concerned or I mean, do you feel like it's North Texas coming in at 1-6? I mean, are you guys looking at this will be an easy win for us? You just get through this one and then go to the next. But what are your thoughts as a whole on this North Texas game?
Well, I mean, if you just look at the schedule that Rice has played so far, Arkansas, Texas, Houston, UTSA, UAB, those 5 games are most of them have clinched bowl games already, and we're going into the eighth week of the season. A lot of those teams have spent time in the top 25. Some computer rankings have UTSA as the best team Rice has played so far. So Rice has not had an easy schedule. The second half is infinitely easier just because they don't have to play that. They still got some good teams left, but yeah, North Texas is probably not one of them. As far as the teams that are, well-rounded and can beat you on both sides of the ball, I think North Texas is obviously, we talked about the Mason Fine days. It's been a long time since Mason Fine has been slinging it
Tell
back
me
there.
about it.
Some NFL wide receivers, they're gone too. I mean, this is not the same North Texas team. And frankly, this was a game last season that Rice fans had circled that Rice fans thought they should win. And Jalen Darden put a freshman safety on skates and just ran past him. And then Jason Bean had the 80 some odd yard touchdown run when somebody fell down. And so Rice's quarterback, Mike Collins, gets hurt in that game, ends up being knocked out for the rest of his season and his career. It just kind of a sour moment. And the thing with Rice so far is, they haven't lost to anybody that they are supposed to beat. I think Rice, I haven't checked line recently. I think Rice is slightly favored.
I think only by like 3 points or something,
Yeah,
which I was surprised. I thought it would have been more. We may have to put our bets in, Matthew.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the problem with Rice and why it's a dangerous bet is because they're just not consistent. UTSA and UAB, Rice was a 3-touchdown underdog to both teams. They beat one outright and lost to 45 by the other one. So the problem with Rice so far is you just don't know which team is going to show up. And a lot of it hangs on the initial 8 minutes of football. Against UTSA, Rice had a 3-and-out, and UTSA went down and scored. 3-and-out, UTSA went down and scored. It's 14-0, and then just everything fell apart against UAB. Rice converts on 4th down twice, put it in the box, score a touchdown. First defensive possession, turnover. Rice gets the ball back and scores, and it's 14-0. So yeah, every team is better when you spot them a 14-point lead. That applies from UTSA to North Texas to Rice, but that's been key for Rice. So this is the game that Rice needs to prove to everybody. We aren't just the team that can win the big games, but we're a better team than we've been in the past. And last year they got tripped up by North Texas on the road. This is a game Rice needs to win. You talked about having a good season. A bowl game is still very, very much so in the cards. And if they're going to get there, they're going to have to beat North Texas.
Yeah, absolutely. So how, in your opinion, how would North Texas, go down to to Rice and steal a win? What would North Texas have to do in order to pull that off?
DeAndre Torrey needs to go for like 203.
200. So is your rush defense, would you say that's probably the weak point of this team?
No, I think historically the front seven has been really good for Rice, and they've been able to hold teams down. Running against Rice hasn't been very easy, but the teams that have been able to move the ball on the ground against Rice with any sort of regularity, that's kind of opened up space over the top to kind of take shots. And so if you're North Texas, like I was looking earlier today, and I think every team outside of Louisiana Tech has scored 5 touchdowns against this defense. So I don't think North Texas is going to win this game 17-14. That doesn't sound very believable to me. I think they can win a 35-28 game. The way you do that is you force Rice to play well executed football. DeAndre Torrey holds on to the ball, grinds out the clock, kind of plays a Rice style game. So when Rice gets the ball, they don't have the margin of error of like, yeah, you can score 3 times on 8 possessions. It's like, no, now you're down by 7. You're going into the third quarter. You have to score now or else. I think that's the recipe for North Texas to make this a game, make their drives count. DeAndre Torrey is a phenomenal running back, has a lot of explosiveness. He just has to stay ahead of the chains. I think if North Texas is going to pull an upset, it's going to start there more than likely.
Interesting stuff. So, well, hopefully, from a North Texas fans perspective, we can go in and do just that. But anyway, Matthew, anything else we need to touch on before we hop off?
I think those are the big things. I think we mentioned at the top. I thought it was interesting. Right in the middle of this AAC announcement, Rice played UTSA. Then they played UAB. We get North Texas this coming weekend, and right after that is Charlotte. So we're moving to a new conference, but we're taking literally everybody.
That's
it feels
right.
like along with us. So it's been a fun little mini AAC slate.
It has
over the past month or so.
Better together. Looking forward to doing many more of these things with you for many years to come in the AAC. And man, it's going to be a Texas-sized conference. Man, we're going to have SMU, UTSA, UNT, you guys Rice. So that's 4. I mean, I guess we had the same amount in Conference USA, but good God, man. Conference USA.
But it's you can drive to Tulsa quicker than you can get to UTEP. So.
Oh yeah, UTEP might as well be in a different country.
Trading out Ruston for New Orleans,
yeah,
it's all good, man.
Yeah, we're
sorry,
yeah.
Tech.
I am too. Yeah, I was telling some of the North Texas fans, even on the down year, we're still winning, but yeah, looking forward to it. But Matthew, once again, thanks for jumping on with me, and again, look forward to doing this many times in the future.
Absolutely, thanks for having me.